What do we do when our colleagues want to improve their teaching but don't like traditional notions of PD?
We're going to discuss where PD resistance comes from and gives you some solutions that will help you and your colleagues and your students in this episode of the DIESOL podcast.
Welcome to the DIESOL podcast, where we focus on developing innovation in English as a second or other language.
I'm Brent Warner, professor of ESL at Irvine Valley College, and I'm here with Ishel Reyes, award-winning educator in innovation and professional development, amongst other things. Ishel, how are you doing?
Very good. I'm excited about today's topic.
Cool.
We know that conferences are an important part of professional development, but informal professional development can be just as valuable. Mm-hmm. And today's episode is a little bit of an extension of episode 98. That's where we talked about 7 ways to fit PD into your busy schedule.
Yeah. So I think we'll kind of get into that, and we're kind of adding a number 8, I guess, to that. But I think the first thing to talk about here, people who are listening to this show are PD friendly, right? So they're, by default, if you're listening to a podcast on your own time about teaching, you're in our crew and in our we have matching mindsets. But we all know that there's a lot of teachers out there that can be really resistant to PD, and for all sorts of different reasons. And so I think, for a long time, I just didn't get it, right? I was like, what do you mean? This is our job, and then we want to get better at it. And but when you start thinking about it, when you start talking to people, you see that there are different reasons that they are resistant to professional development. And so just kind of wanted to come in and maybe chat through a few of these, starting with, I think, maybe one of the big ones. They're all equal. I don't know. But, this idea that, like, I don't want a stranger coming in and telling me what to do. Have you dealt with that?
Oh, absolutely. And I've had that experience because perhaps sometimes someone coming in doesn't really know the issues that are happening on the ground in the classroom as we're working. So they may give us something that sounds like we can apply it, but we can't. And so then it feels like, well, you're dangling this beautiful solution to something, but I can't really use it.
That's right. Yeah. We don't have access to that, or, I've had things where it's like, those are not problems that our students have. So a lot of times, I teach in a fairly affluent area, right? And so sometimes I've been given solutions that are like for, places that are struggling with money, and I appreciate that's that needs to be dealt with, but it's not on our campus necessarily, right? And so how are they able to balance that? And then you just kind of start to generalize when you see those people, because I go the other way, and of course I do presentations for schools, and I do, workshops and things like that. And it's like, I think there's a value to having an outside voice talking about things. But I think once you've had a couple of so-so or sour experiences, then you tend to generalize. And I know a lot of teachers have kind of felt that same way. They're like, they're just, not really trying to help. They're just trying to do their thing and then get out the door. And that's, I understand where that resistance comes from.
And
yeah,
I was going to say, of course, with the limited time that we have, we don't want to waste it, right?
Yeah, for sure. So next one up is I see this one come up too, is I don't have time or money to go to a conference or to pursue PD, right? It costs time. It takes time no matter what. Some schools give you some money for going to these things, but not necessarily always. And so that one definitely is a problem. How often have you talked to people about this one?
Oh, yeah. The part about I don't have time because I have to prepare, and it's going to take time and energy. Or the fact that maybe the school only covers, or the organization only covers part of the cost, but then you still have to fly out, make your own arrangement. And so it is expensive. It is very expensive to attend a conference.
Yeah, it's expensive and that time consuming part because it's like all of your travel, all of your, it's like that's also time when you're like not able to grade papers or, you're not able to
Or make plans
all
for
the
a
things.
sub.
Yeah, yeah. So it takes a lot out of you just to be able to get that free time that you're looking for, right? And so that can be a little bit stressful for sure. Okay. Next one is I've been teaching for a long time, and every time I go to these things, they don't teach anything new.
Well, that means you're attending the wrong sessions, maybe, but it's true. Or
it's kind of true. I think
true.
There's different mindsets though, because I know a lot of teachers that have been teaching for a long time, and they have a curiosity first mindset, right? Where they're like, let's see what I can get out of this. And when I attend sessions, my goal is to try to find one thing, right? Like, and even if that's an hour-long session, I'm like, if I can get one thing out of that I can apply or that I can find in a way to improve my craft, that is a win. And I think some people go in there going like, every single second of this has to be valuable, right? And it's like, well, we spend a lot of hours doing a lot of things that are not every second valuable. But if I can get something, one solid thing, that tends to be pretty good for me. All right, and then the last one, and I'm sure there's other reasons that people don't like PD, but we'll go with this one as the last one, which is I'm exhausted and I can't put any more energy into work than I already am doing.
Oh, yes. That happens. That's happened to me. That's happened to me where I needed a break.
Yeah, totally fair. And I love this stuff. And I'll be like, no, not today. So I think
Yet here we are.
Yeah, here we are, right? Well, the nice thing about the podcast is you can listen whenever you want, right? Okay, so I think we're kind of dealing with one potential solution to this, to all of these together, which is, a lot of teachers will see their colleagues, and their colleagues want to get better, right? Be better teachers, do more for their students, whatever else it is. But they don't really feel like, all these issues above are holding them back for whatever reasons. And so, Michelle, you and I think from the very first time we were teaching together, this kind of became our solution to this, which is, the brown bag solution, the brown bag session solution, or however you call it. But basically brown bag PD, right? Which is, on campus or on Zoom or whatever it is, you just pick a time, lunchtime usually, depending on what your school schedule looks like and when people are available. And then you just do kind of informal, quick and dirty grassroots PD, right? And we just say, hey, it's going to be led by us. It's going to be led for us. There's no one coming in telling us what we have to do. All of those things are going to be part of it.
I think when you and I put together brown bag sessions, I think one of the important aspects of it was that people were sharing ideas, and it created a sense of community. And again, if you're having a brown bag session with your colleagues, it's just you could be doing the same thing at the teacher's lounge, but instead it might lead to talking about celebrities. But why not come together and talk about things that worked? It's another way to boost morale, and for me, it's a way to encourage others to share. I think that's one of the aspects I like with PD is I like to encourage my peers to share, even when they think they don't have something to share. They do.
Yeah, and you're right there, right? I mean, it's like other ways people call these different things lunch and learn or whatever else it is, right? Basically, there's so many times when you are sitting down together with your colleagues and just kind of chit-chatting, and even if maybe you don't know some of the new teachers or whatever, and you're like, oh, what do we talk about, right? Or you're just gossiping. And so it's like, hey, what if every once in a while that time together was just sharing some ideas, something that's working in your classroom, whatever else it is. So Next part to this is that you're also crowdsourcing ideas from each other, right? So when you're sitting together in a room and you can share a couple of strategies or tools that you've built or you found effective, you can get new perspectives on things, right? And so many times, like, this is just like, oh, you're doing that, I'm going to steal that idea and I'm going to put it right into my classroom. And I think for so many of us, our best ideas come from sharing with other people, right? Yeah. And it's like, not just sitting alone, but you're going, oh, what do you do? What am I doing? Let's back and forth. That style's not going to work for me, but like you and your idea, and I'm listening to two people talking now, and then I'm going to kind of combine those ideas, right? There's so many parts to it that just make it way more powerful.
And then another reason why brown bags are so great is that people who might be too shy to do a formal presentation, or who might have a fear of, oh, I don't know if my abstract is going to be accepted, I don't know how to write one. Well, a brown bag is a great place to have their voice shared and maybe help them out of their shell. Plus, they get to share their expertise without the pressure of a large crowd of strangers. And I think that's by far one of the number one, I guess, what my colleagues usually share is like, well, why do I have to share? I don't know. I don't know these people. What if they don't like it? It's like, no, you have so much to share. You think you don't have to share, but you have expertise, you have experience. Plus, you have a different perspective. And I think that that's an important factor there, that you're giving a platform for other people to share without the pressure, right? Yeah. It's just your colleagues.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there is a huge sense for all of us, no matter what level you're at or how often you do these things, that everybody already knows what I'm going to talk about. And so therefore, nobody wants to hear it. And it's like, I think nothing could be further from the truth than that, right? Which is, you're just like, wait a second, what are you talking about? Please share this stuff. Please let us hear how you're approaching it, your take on it, or, we just like you as a person. And so therefore your style of doing things might be influence us to understand things better.
Yeah, and I think a great example of this is when we used to have brown bags at our previous workplace. I would just get so many ideas from people that I normally we just had different schedules, but at lunch we would come together and collaborate. And maybe I didn't use a tool that they shared, but it gave me an idea for something I could do. And again, the fact that I changed my approach or tried a new approach, that's development right there, right? So it's professional development, just at that in that very small micro sense.
Absolutely. So a lot of these things to kind of think about. We'll come back and talk about how to actually build a brown bag session in a minute.
Add us on Instagram at DIESOL. We are exploring how others are using professional development. If you leave us a comment, we'll check it out. We're sharing a lot of the great ideas that we see. So we're on Instagram.
Yeah, excellent.
So how do we go about proposing or hosting your own informal PD session? Well, Brent and I have always said, build it and they will come. And Brent earlier said, yeah, they will come. Be the driving force for change. If no one else is doing it already, then why not do it yourself? That's what we did, right? It doesn't matter if it's just 3 of you at once. It'll grow. Anyway, it'll happen.
I want to reiterate that point too, because it's like, if you want to talk about this stuff and you just say, hey, like, it's an open invite, right? But if you have one friend that will sit there and listen to you and you can kind of walk them through a few things and whatever, then that's all you need, right? And then we'll get into a few of the steps for growing it and for making it an opportunity for people. But you don't need to say, oh, okay, it's going to be a failure if not, if 15 teachers don't show up or whatever else it is, right? The goal here is, it's the brown bag, right? You're sitting there, you're having lunch anyways. So like now we're just talking about something a little bit more focused than than what happened over the weekend, right? That's about it. And so it's really easy to get started with, but we have a couple of tips here for getting yourself going.
Yeah, I think first of all, limit your topic. Choose 1 or 2 areas to focus on, given that lunchtime is fairly limited and we're already at work. So you want to make sure that you have enough time to get an idea and to share the idea. So limiting the topic to one or two things.
Yeah. And again, that can be really basic, like how to use this tool, right? How, hey, here's how I'm using Google Docs, and you could just show people, for example. But connected with that is like the goal, if you're not sure what to talk about, is start small, right? So you should probably be willing to be the presenter. If you're listening to the show and you're saying, hey, I want to get people involved with these things, and you say, hey, I can present on a couple of these things. Maybe you've presented at conferences, or maybe you've done whatever, and you can just kind of take those same ideas and bring them back, but start small with things that people are already asking you questions about, right? So maybe someone says, hey, I saw that you were doing a Kahoot. Like, what are you doing with that, right? What's happening in your class with that, right? And they say, oh, you know what? Let's have lunch tomorrow, and we'll get into an empty classroom, and I'll show you what I'm doing, right? And then you can say, invite other people if they want to. And then the other thing is my other part of this recommendation on the first ones that you're doing this is really to set that tone as very, very casual, right? Which is, anybody can come. Doors are open, right? Have people stop you and ask questions. So if you're projecting something, like, it's totally cool, let's just talk about it. That goal of keeping it not as I am teaching you what to do, but it's just like I'm helping you see what I'm doing, and if it works, that's great. I think some people, when they do presentations and people start having their little side conversations, they're like, oh, well, I'm waiting for you to finish talking so I can finish my presentation. None of that stuff, right? If people are talking on the side, let them talk on the side, right? It's just a in a room sharing, and that's the big goal here.
Yeah, and we mentioned earlier that this Brown Bag PD is very much a grassroots effort. So you want to keep it moving forward, but you also want to involve the people that are attending. So very many times when you have a good conversation, it's a great opportunity to ask people if they'd be willing to talk about something. Oftentimes people will be flattered and they'll agree. I've had teachers who tell me, well, I'm interested. I'm really into improving my students' motivation towards reading, but I don't think anyone wants to hear about that. Or it's like, no, what are you talking about? That's like one of the hardest things to do, is to how we want to know. So in an effort to keep the brown bags moving forward so that it spreads and it's not all on one person, but it's a grassroots effort led by teachers for teachers.
Yeah. Well, and I remember, Ishel, when we were at USC, we had a colleague and we were like, she knew all about getting into conferences, right? Like doing the applications and submitting your proposals to present, everything. The abstracts. She knew everything, and I think we asked her, and she's like, "Oh, nobody wants to hear about that." And we're like, "Everybody wants to hear about that." And then we had to move to a bigger room because so many people told us they were coming, right? And so you never kind of know, right? And push people a little bit just to say, hey, I think actually people really do want to hear about this, because it can be a surprise to many people when they have the knowledge and they think that everybody else either kind of knows or is uninterested. And so do that encouragement. And then also, I would also say that you would go and invite people directly face to face. So if you say like, hey, we're doing this thing, whether they're brand new teachers, actually new teachers are great to invite because maybe they don't feel like they're part of the community yet. And so it's a good chance for them to come in, but also veteran teachers, right? So a lot of times veteran teachers are just kind of feel like they're off on their own thing. And like, I know how the system works. And so it's a great chance to kind of bring people together. And those direct invites really help people help get people to show up to them as well. And then again, it's you really want to re-emphasize this idea. You don't need to prep anything to come to this thing. You just you just show up and hang out in a room together.
Yeah, the fact you're a teacher, you have experience, you have expertise. And then I guess one of the last ways to catch everyone's attention and just make it a kind of like a regular thing that's going on is to make a cool flyer on Canva or your favorite design tool leave it in a place where others will start a conversation about it. Brent and I used to leave them in the teacher's lounge or put them up near the, in a bulletin board, and we'd have the topic, and it was the more the merrier. But also understanding that people now will, after a couple of these, they'll expect one. When's the next brown bag? When are you having that? And so it's kind of, you create a own little micro PD community.
Yeah.
So important to...
I was surprised at how many people really wanted to start coming to them and wanted to be like,
yeah.
okay, and we're really
people that I never talked, colleagues that I never really talked to because we had different schedules. Right. And so I that's one of the most valuable places, or one of the memories I have of learning a lot of valuable tools and getting to interact with other teachers that were new. And I just didn't have a chance to work with them at the time. But that was a time when we got to share with each other. And that, again, that's professional development, right? You're learning from other professionals in the field.
No, that's right. That's right. So again, I just want to reiterate, because I think the big thing is that people go, it's going to take so much time to set up and it's going to take so much time to whatever. And it's like, no, if you're spending any more than 30 minutes thinking about setting this whole thing up, then, you're probably overdoing it, at least to get started. Right. And so it really should just be like, hey, I think I want to do this thing. Can we get a room?
It could be as simple as oh, I don't know how to fix the settings on this, and that's a question people commonly ask, maybe about a tool. Okay, let's go through it, and then during lunch, and then someone says, oh, did you know about this feature? Oh, didn't know that. Oh, yes, this is how I use it. And so little by little conversations start happening.
And then maybe you just do it once a month, or it doesn't have to be all the time, right? It doesn't have to be.
No, and it doesn't have to be the same people all the time. Yeah. It should be something you're excited about and looking forward to, and like Brent said at the beginning, quick and dirty.
Quick and dirty.
All right. It is time for our fun finds, and this time I have the Mitsubishi Uniball Jet Pen.
Ooh,
it's about a $6 pen in the United States, probably half the price in Japan, but it's a rollerball, the gel ink type. And nice. It's about, 5-inch pen with a little clip, and it's a little chubby grip type pen. It just feels good in your hand, and you can clip it onto your lanyard. And I just bought one and I love it. And I'm going to see if we can get some. A chunky pen, a chunky accoutrement for writing. We're going to see if we can get some branded to maybe give away. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, with the new logo. Great.
Yeah. What do you have?
So I did a little trip around Kyushu recently, and Kyushu is known for its ramen and excellent food. And so we went all the way down to Kagoshima, which is the south end of Kyushu, and we went to this restaurant called Tontoro Ramen, which was probably the best ramen I've ever had. It's definitely up there in the top 2 or 3 for sure. But really, really excellent pork-based ramen. And if you're ever, it's a chain. There's a few of the stores around. I'm not sure exactly, but Tontoro Ramen, if you're in Japan, if you're traveling through that area, it is absolutely worth the stop. So that's mine.
All right. For the show notes and other episodes, check out diesel.org/101. You can find us on Instagram, and you can find us on Facebook. We're Diesel Pod on most platforms.
You can find me on the socials at Brent G. Warner.
And you can find me, Ishel, at Ixie_Pixie.
So for today's mystery language global phrase, we got a new one here. Sennichi no kingaku yori ichiji no meisho. If you can figure out what that means, let us know and send us a message. And by the way, thanks to Mimi Macias for figuring out the last one. We're sending you a sticker. We sent her a little message already, so she knows it's coming. But just for fun, thanks so much for participating, playing around,
and listening all the way to the end.
Yeah, you made it to the end.
You made it to the end.
Congratulations. And thanks so much for joining us again, everybody. We will see you soon. And as always, thank you for listening to the DIESOL podcast.